With the holidays behind us and a new year starting, I'm facing something I have avoided for months. Why I turned to spending after Mr. C passed away. This isn't about money, it's about the why. After he died, I noticed something about myself. Shopping started to feel comforting. Not exciting, comforting. When the grief was heavy, buying something gave me a momentary sense of relief. It gave me something to look forward to. Something to distract me when the quiet felt too loud. And I want to be very clear, there's no shame in that. Grief looks for relief wherever it can find it. But over time, I realized that the relief didn't last. The boxes showed up and the grief was still there. So this No Spend January isn't about me trying to control my spending or punishing myself. It's about me slowing down long enough to notice what I reach for when life hurts. So instead of automatically filling the quiet with shopping, I want to sit with it a little more. Not all at once, not perfectly, just honestly. This month is my way of choosing awareness over autopilot and peace over purchases. And if you've ever noticed yourself shopping during a hard season, grief, stress, loneliness, you're not alone. That's part of what we're exploring together this month. For the past 6 years, I've been a work-in-progress impulse buyer. And when I look back now, I can clearly see my patterns. I can see my triggers. I can see what leads me to overspend. But the last 10 months after the sudden loss of Mr. C have been difficult. I'm going to be honest. I've made some really poor financial decisions during my grief. I've done what I now recognize as grief spending, probably around $2,000, and honestly, maybe more if I sit down and really look at my bank account. There have been moments where I've found things in my home and gently asked myself, when did I buy this? And why did I buy this? This isn't about self-blame, but it's not about avoiding accountability either. It's simply the reality of living in a fog after losing your person suddenly. Your brain is trying to survive, not make rational decisions. As we step into a new year, I really want to slow down and understand why I do this. Not just stop the behavior, but understand the root of it. And that's why I've decided to do a No Spend January. Several of you told me you want to do this with me. Some of you are grieving. Some of you just want to get your spending under control. And some of you just need a reset. Whatever your reason is, you're welcome here. Now, before I go any deeper, I want to be clear about the rules I've set for myself for No Spend January, because this isn't about deprivation, it's about intention. For me, no spend means I'm only spending money on true necessities. That includes paying the bills, putting gas in the car, and buying groceries. That's it. No extras, no just because, no emotional spending disguised as self-care. A no-spend month isn't just about proving you have self-control. For me, it's about going deeper. It's about learning more about myself, my personality, and my emotional patterns. Now, if you've been around here for a while, you know I've said many, many times that I do not journal. Sitting down and writing out my feelings has always felt hard for me. I process things better by talking. I even record little videos on my phone just for myself, just to get my thoughts out. But as I started preparing for No Spend January, I realized I needed to add another layer, not just rules about what I can buy and what I can't, but real self-reflection. And here's what I've learned. Months ago, my brain was moving way too fast for journaling. My thoughts were spiraling. What do I do with the house, the cars, my life? There was so much noise in my head that I couldn't sit with a blank page. I've done talk therapy. I've done grief counseling. I've shared my journey here on YouTube. But journaling just wasn't possible then, and that's okay. Now, 10 months in, I feel calmer, not fixed, not healed, just calmer. Calm enough to sit down with myself and do the hard work. I don't want this pattern to repeat itself after January. I want real change. So I sat down and created weekly journaling prompts for the month of January, specifically to dig into my impulse buying. I realized the blank page was the problem. The prompts give my thoughts somewhere to land. I used the internet as my resource. I looked up articles, YouTube videos, and I pulled questions that challenged me. And I'm using a small notebook just for this month. Once a week, I sit down and answer these questions honestly. And if you want to do this with me, I'll leave the week 1 questions in the description box. I'll also put them on the screen so you can pause the video and do the work alongside me. For week 1, the questions I'm asking myself are, what am I hoping buying will fix for me right now? What emotion usually triggers my spending? And the last question, what do I want more than stuff this month? This month isn't about perfection, it's about awareness and healing and choosing something better for our future selves. I did all of my journaling in the mornings. In the evenings, I'm done. In the mornings is when I have the most brain power. So I really sat with these questions. And for the first question, which is, what am I hoping buying will fix for me right now? I had 2 things. First is to fix my deep grief. And the second was to reinvent my life and create a new me. And I know in the past that when I took care of my mother who had dementia, I got my dopamine hits from going to the thrift store. And while I was reselling, I bought a lot that wasn't for sale, a lot of stuff that I wasn't going to sell, just to keep for myself. And once I was able to get my mother into a wonderful care facility, it hit me. I went downstairs in my utility room and saw all the stuff I had sitting there. And I remember I had a huge yard sale to get rid of every bit of it, because at the time when I was getting it at the thrift store, it was a dopamine hit. But then later on, it just became noise in my home and shame and guilt and regret. And the second one, to reinvent myself, because a lot of widows, probably 99% of widows, when their husband passes away, they lose their identity. And for me, my identity, everything I did was wrapped up in Mr. C. He was my life. We had been with each other since we were teenagers. We were married 35 and a half years. So everything I did was wrapped up in him, and I didn't know who I was. So I bought clothes. I bought shoes. I haven't even worn the clothes or the shoes. And I realized that I bought new clothes and shoes because losing him shattered my identity. So the new clothes and shoes represented a possibility that if I could look like someone new, maybe I could feel like someone new. From this, I've learned that this is called identity reconstruction, which happens after trauma and loss. My old identity, wife, partner, us. My brain panicked and said, we need a replacement version of her ASAP. So the most tangible way to create a new version of me was to buy new clothes, new shoes, a new aesthetic, and create a whole new story for myself. I've learned that the reason I haven't worn any of these clothes or shoes I bought is because I'm not ready for that version of me yet. The purchasing represented a future I was hoping for. And I also learned that clicking on Amazon, checking out of Walmart, whatever was online that I was checking out of, that was faster than the slow journey of dealing with my grief. I can now see that I wasn't trying to reinvent myself. I was trying to prove I existed, which isn't impulsive. It's actually self-preservation. And the fact I can question it now means I am no longer in shock. And I'm able to ask myself, who am I becoming? And then I had to really look at the emotional triggers. Well, for me, it would be if I was stressed, overwhelmed, even excited, or lonely. I was in the mode of I deserve this after Mr. C passed away. I survived something brutal, so my brain said, I've earned comfort ordering nicer versions of everyday things. And it's so odd because I can remember looking online and looking at more expensive things to buy than things I would usually buy. I didn't buy any expensive clothes. I didn't buy any expensive shoes, but I did buy an expensive mug and saucer from Spode. I think altogether it was around $30. I would never spend $30 on a coffee mug, but I'm like, I deserve this. I don't want and I've got coffee mugs, but it was just representing something that was nicer and was new. And I did feel like I deserved it. So I did find myself wanting to upgrade things that didn't need upgrading. Another trigger was that the nights were too quiet. They led to late night Amazon scrolling, watching TikTok and YouTube shorts, and clicking on shopping links. I was trying to fill the space where Mr. C used to occupy my time at night. We would spend the night talking. He would come to the bedroom. I'd be writing out my schedule. He would lay across the bed. He had a word game he would do on his phone. We would just lay there with Bruiser in the bed with us. And we would just talk. And it was so nice. And then all of a sudden, I didn't have that anymore. And the nights were awful. And impulse buying was also easy because thinking felt exhausting. My brain wanted fewer decisions. Spending ended the thought loop. It allowed me to step out of thinking about grief and just scroll and think of better days or trying to reinvent my life. It just put me in this make-believe world, and I didn't have to face reality. And with me feeling overwhelmed, I started looking for control-seeking purchases. Life felt out of control. Buying created a false sense of order. I would buy a new planner. I bought all of these different systems, like these Nikki Boyd, who is the YouTuber from At Home with Nikki. There was one for planning your home, your final plans, because I thought about death all the time. And these little cards to help you clean your house in 52 weeks. I filled out a couple of those books, haven't touched them since, haven't even used the 52-week clean your home cards. But I wanted this order in my life, and I wanted things to make sense. And I like routine. I like schedule. I like knowing what I'm going to be doing the next day. And the one thing I didn't see coming was Mr. C passing away suddenly. And I just wanted control. I also did some home projects. I started those during the times after Mr. C passed away where I had emotional highs. And I bought flooring that I didn't need to buy right away. I spent thousands of dollars on that. That's not included in with the $2,000 I spent just on grief spending. I still have that sitting there. Haven't started on it yet. But I felt like if I can control my environment, maybe I can calm my insides. And loneliness. Packages were something to look forward to because I had nothing else to look forward to. The dopamine hit replaced conversations that I would usually have with Mr. C. And circling back to those home projects, I felt like if I fix my house, I'll feel better. Buying supplies and decor without a plan, starting multiple projects at once, overspending on aesthetic changes. I was trying to visually reset a life that emotionally can't reset yet. And the last question I asked myself was, what do I want more than stuff this month? I need things that actually stabilize my grieving nervous system. I don't need more things. Okay, so the first thing I want more than stuff is safety. I want predictable routines because boring actually helps regulate your nervous system. I want familiar meals. I want to keep eating the same thing, having the same plan so I don't have to think about it. Same morning and evening routines, fewer decisions, not more options. My body needs consistency, not novelty. I also need rest that isn't productive. My son gets on to me all the time. He says, "Mom, you need to pick a day where you don't do anything. You just rest." I said, "I have times I do that." He said, "No. If you're sitting in bed or you're sitting on the sofa and you think you're resting, you're trying to plan out the entire year. You're trying to plan out the rest of your life." He said, "That's not productive rest." He said, "You need a day where you just don't do anything, Mom. You don't have to think about things." And I told him, I said, I had months like that where I just sat there. He said, "But it wasn't rest." He said, "You were so full of grief. You were crying your eyes out. You weren't really resting." So I need to be able to sit without fixing anything. I need to start going to bed earlier, getting up earlier, and saying no to things and people. The third thing I need more than stuff this month is movement. Our bodies hold grief physically. For me, that's walking, stretching, going outside. I am not looking to run a marathon. I'm not even caring if I work out every single day, what people consider working out. For me, if I go for a 15-minute walk outside, and going for a walk outside where I don't use my headphones, just listening to nature and just letting the boring take over to hopefully quiet my nervous system. I have been listening to stuff constantly since Mr. C passed, always having music on, headphones on, watching stuff, looking at stuff. That's another way I've been chasing dopamine, is when you constantly scroll, you're getting that hit, and you keep going and going and going. And that's something else I need to work on, is doing a dopamine fast for my nervous system. I also need a language for what I'm feeling, because a lot of my spinning happens when emotions are unnamed. So for me, that'll be journaling now, which I'm starting to love. As I mentioned, I couldn't do it months ago. Talking it out, which I love to do. My sons are great people that I can talk to, my sister-in-law. As I've mentioned, I'll take my phone out and record myself just talking. It helps so much. And being able to say, this is loneliness. This is fear. This is fill in the blank. Instead of, I need to buy something. That'll fix it. Naming the feeling should kill that urge for me to buy. And another thing I need is meaningful control. Intentional choices, keeping promises to myself. That's a big one. Keeping promises to myself. When I say I am not going to buy this, or I'm going to get up early in the morning, or I'm going to go for a walk, I need to do it. I need to be held accountable to myself, and I need to keep my promises to myself. And also being able to say no without explaining. I also need time. That's something I need more than spending. Grief isn't something you fix. It's something you live alongside of. No thing will replace Mr. C's presence, and no Amazon delivery will fill the space he occupied. So when the urge hits, I want to ask myself, what am I actually needing right now? It's almost never an item or a thing. It's either comfort, or relief, or grounding, or companionship, or just rest. I've never delved this deep into my spending, and I'm so glad that my nervous system is finally slowing down enough for me to be able to think. But if you're like me, and when you look at a blank sheet of paper, you don't know what to put down, I hope that these questions and just joining me for this month of no spend maybe can help you see why you're doing what you're doing. More than likely, it's never the thing you want. It's why you want that thing. And I think that is the most important work we do when it comes to understanding overbuying, impulse buying, overspending, emotional spending, whatever you want to call it, because they're not planned purchases. And when you look back, sometimes you hold guilt, you hold shame, and what you bought feels like a burden. And going through grief is one layer I'm dealing with. I don't need to add another layer on top of that to make this process even harder on myself. If you're going to be joining me for No Spend January, and maybe even a little self-discovery along the way, comment No Spend below. Let's encourage each other this month. You don't have to do this alone.